Now, the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
Coleman all the way. Wow. Scoops it home.
I just want our students to be crazy, but with class. And I'll preach that.
I thought there was tremendous energy. It was a great crowd. I thought our kids really executed well, executed a game plan, played together, played smart, played tough.
I think it's a big week for all of us and big game. They're all going to be big games now, but nothing like a rivalry.
After a few weeks off, we hope you enjoyed the holiday season and are ready to rock and roll in 2023. And for the MSU men's basketball team, there truly is no better way to ring in the new year than going up against its biggest rival. In just a couple of hours, Michigan and Michigan State will meet on the hardwood for the first time this year. It will also be Mady Sissoko's first time starting against the Wolverines. And after averaging just a little over 1 point a game the last 2 seasons, our Ian Kress shares how the junior from West Africa has learned patience is a virtue.
When you think about this season you've had so far compared to the last 2, how has it been? Just obviously you didn't start any games your first 2 years. Now here you are, you're starting and you're having a much bigger role. So what has this year been like for you?
It felt great knowing you're going to play. It's a lot different knowing you're not going to play. So feeling great, going out there, do my job every day.
That's a pretty serious shot for Sissoko for the slam. Underneath. And Sissoko is in his zone. Michigan State spent some time right there. Exactly what they worked on this morning, Kevin, and they got it.
What was the preparation like, throughout the summer, knowing a bigger role was coming for you? How did the coaches really push you maybe a little more than they have the last 2 summers?
It's been a little different young in the first 2 years, to be honest, because if they know you're playing, you make a mistake, people's gonna call out. And you make a good plays, people's gonna call out. So it was a lot of challenges.
Did you have to learn to be patient in a way, knowing, waiting for that moment to come?
Yeah, patience was the big thing for me the past couple of years.
When you arrived as a freshman, what were your expectations of maybe what you're...
My expectations were very, very high.
Any given guy on any given night can score 20 points. Sissoko sends that one out of bounds with emphasis.
I thought I was going to come here and then make an impact right away, but it didn't go that way. So I have to go back and then just learn how to be patient with that.
Coming from West Africa to then the United States and here in East Lansing, how has just the transition been your entire life? Because I feel like not many people take the route you do to get here.
Transition was a little bit difficult, especially the first 2 years. And then when I was in Utah in high school, it was a little bit different. But going to Utah, kind of like going to school there, is a part of America. So it just kind of it helped me, the culture-wise, and you came to Utah, you're around with your host family the whole time, and then now you're away from them too. So it's kind of and then making new friend here and the family here. It's been a transition in my whole life. But it's been great.
Do you still find ways to keep in touch with your family back home?
Not a lot, but yeah, still find a way to talk to them.
Yeah, I know that you wear number 22 for your brother, correct?
Yeah, and number 22 because my brother has back-to-back 2 separate twins, so it just kind of make me okay, I'm gonna wear 22 for them.
So it makes you feel like you're at home when you wear that number. Growing up, soccer was your main sport. I heard that soccer is what you thought really developed you into a basketball player. How is that so?
I for sure thought I was going to become a soccer player, but now until I moved to the big city, Bamako. So I moved to there. In my first couple of months, I was playing soccer, and I love soccer because my family are soccer players, especially my brother who's in the military. He loves soccer a lot. But it just happened to one day. I said, okay, I'm gonna just go try basketball, and it just is how basketball come to my life from nowhere.
Sissoko offensive rebound. The putback counted.
That's great effort
How has, because your major is environmental science, correct?
Yeah.
Your gardening background back home, how has that maybe helped you?
My family is a big farming peoples, and then just I tried learning agriculture, and then that could give me ideas, and then how helping them to grow a lot of seed and grow the right way, so that they can have a better feel how to grow stuff, and so yeah.
Are you able to use your background with some of the stuff you're learning in class at all, or no?
I mean, we haven't gotten that part yet, so.
Sissoko will be leaned on heavily to try and slow down Michigan's big man, Hunter Dickinson, who is yet again the Wolverines' leading scorer. The 7-footer has given Tom Izzo some problems over the last 2 seasons, and with Michigan State currently on a 5-game win streak, Izzo sits down with us after the break to discuss what's working so well for the Spartans as they get ready for the first installment of this year's rivalry.
As we go to break, Farm Bureau Insurance invites you to register to win an exclusive private dinner with head coach Tom Izzo. Go to InsideTheGreenSweeps.com to register.
With MSU FCU's checking accounts, you can manage your finances the way you want. Hate paying monthly fees? Totally Green Checking is right for you. Enjoy perks like no minimum balance, no monthly fees, and more. Want a more traditional option? Classic Checking offers many great features plus paper statements. Looking to maximize your earnings? A money market checking account pays you dividends on your balance at rates higher than the national average. MSU FCU has the checking account that's right for you.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
In the first half of Michigan State's game against Nebraska, the Spartans were whipping the ball around the perimeter like a hot potato, and it's a big reason why MSU was able to finish with 24 assists on 31 made field goals. Tom Izzo said he thought it was one of the best halves of basketball they have played all season, and it's where we begin part 1 of our chat this week. Well, let's start with the game against Nebraska. In terms of, you always know it's a pretty good night for you or a good game for you when you kind of start dishing out the hugs in the first half. So for Tyson Walker to have 16 points out of his 21 in the first, what was working so well for him?
Well, a couple things are working. Number one, he's been shooting very poorly for how he can shoot. So put it in perspective. But we talked during the week about getting a little more arch on the ball. I thought his ball was flat and starting it a little higher, kind of like when I talk to you about your free throw. And all kidding aside, he really felt comfortable, shot the ball really well in the pregame, and I could tell that the weight of the world was off his shoulder. I was happy for him because I think he did the things we talked about, had some success, but that was part of it. The other part with the ball movement was probably as good as maybe most teams I've coached. I mean, it really moved well in the first half. Got a little stagnant in the second half, but it really moved well. So the combination of making shots and getting open shots is a good combination.
How much did you work on that in your 2 weeks of practice that you had, focusing on offense, but also distributing and sharing the basketball?
Yeah, we really did. We talked about that ball going side to side, and as you even stated earlier, it really did. And when it goes side to side, much harder to defend. Second half, we got caught dribbling the ball a little bit too much. We kind of reverted back to our old self, and we've got to correct that. But the first half might have been as good as you could have. The second half wasn't poor, but it was more towards average.
The other good thing about the game against Nebraska is that Jackson Kohler seemed to come out a little bit more. He had a career high 10 points, but maybe being more aggressive in the paint. What did you like from him?
Well, we knew they did some things that are unique. They doubled in the post, and they don't really pressure you. So we popped him, we put him in the mid-range a little bit more. He did a good job what he had to do. I thought we did a good job getting him the ball, but I think he's starting to feel more comfortable. It's why freshmen are the worst, players on the earth. We always say a freshman's got to become a sophomore, and I've always said there's two things that really bothered me. When we had COVID and Rocket and that, we had that summer, we couldn't practice, trying to make him a point guard. If you don't get practice time, it doesn't work. And then, this maybe month of December with no practice time, it really affected the freshmen. And the freshmen, when you really look at it, you got to put Pierre and Jaden in there a little bit because they didn't get the reps last year. Marty too, even. I thought Jackson played, really good offensively, and yet Marty was really, really good, defensively and rebounding the ball. He was a man-child.
How important are they going to be for Saturday?
Well, they're going to be important, they've got a couple good players. I think his son is as good a player as I've seen Jet is, as far as for freshmen in this league, but even upperclassmen. He really shoots the ball. He plays very much under control, doesn't force a lot. There's no doubt that Dickerson creates a problem that is harder for us to guard just because of maybe the lack of experienced bigs we have, but we'll come up with something.
30 minutes too. Hunter's averaging about 30 minutes. Jet is averaging about 30 minutes. Buffkin is about 30 minutes. So when you're going up against guys who are putting that amount of time on the floor, how do you best game plan for it, knowing that they could be there for a majority of the game?
Well, I think in some ways it's easier, I don't think they have great depth. They got the transfer from Duke that's playing better now, but they've been up and down too. I think everybody's trying to find themselves, including us. Next couple of days, that's what we got to do. We got a game plan for. I thought we did a great job yesterday of doing that. We knew what they brought. They brought some things defensively that were different, and I thought we game planned. This time we might have to game plan more defensively than offensively. This past game against Nebraska was game planned more offensively than defensively.
With Dickinson, Jet Howard, and Kobe Buffkin all roughly averaging 30 minutes a game, they are the Wolverines' top 3 scorers, so trying to contain them will be key if the Spartans want to win their 5th straight game over Michigan inside of the Breslin Center. We'll, of course, relive last year's meeting when we come back.
Closed captioning sponsored by Hearing Life, helping Spartans love their ears. With 41 locations across Michigan, go to hearinglife.com to take a free online hearing test.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
Get it in for Coleman. Officials don't want to blow the whistle. They want this thing to end.
Yeah.
Coleman all the way. Wow. Scoops it home.
With the bench. The bench is just going bonkers over there.
It's always fun to reminisce on certain moments of the rivalry, and with Tom Izzo announcing earlier this week, dual sports star Keon Coleman will no longer be a part of the basketball team this season. We had to dig up his first ever basket as a Spartan because it did come in last year's meeting against the Wolverines. Coleman, of course, will not be on the floor today, but he will be cheering from the stands, and as you'll hear, this was a mutual decision.
It was absolutely nothing bad. I think Keon's the one that called us and came back day after Christmas. But I think he realizes there's, and I think he'd play some. But I also think, as I told him, his future's in football. Last year he did not have a spring ball, more or less. And the good part is Mel was great. We recruited him together. We really did, even though he was 80-20 football, but we did, and Mel was so good about everything, and Mel was like 100% in his corner, him coming back, and because I think there is some benefits to playing, but it gets to be long when you have summer, fall, spring last year, and then you go back with summer, fall, and now you have another grinding, part of it. So he'll be around. I love Keon. He's all the players kind of embraced him, and he competes, man. I really like that about him. But I told him too, what he's got to do is take all that energy now and give it to the weight room, give it to spring ball, and become more of a leader for Mel.
Well, at least he can say too that he did score against Michigan.
There you go. There you go. That's a good thing, and I'm sure he'll be there supporting us on Saturday.
Do you know too, or what are your thoughts on everything that happened in the football season in Ann Arbor? Are you worried at all there's going to be a trickle effect into the game Saturday?
No, I'm not. I'm hoping, number one, our people will do a good job with game management. You know, you can't stop what fans say, but there won't be fans on the court acting like idiots. And I tell every one of our fans, as I'm speaking to them now, let's handle ourselves with class. You know, there was no arguing that I was upset about some of the things that happened. I told you that. I'm completely upset about it. I think to get a $100,000 fine, the suspension of a player is fine, but to get a fine like that, and then the other school gets reprimanded. What the hell does reprimanded mean? You know, I just want our students to be crazy, but with class. And I'll preach that and hopefully demand it, but for some reason I don't get to sit in the stands during the game, but I'm not worried about that. Plus we have separate tunnels.
That is true. You do have separate entrances.
That won't be an issue.
No. Well, good luck in the first installment of the rivalry this year.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a big week for all of us, and I think we're going to have to play well in an area where Marty's playing better, but we don't have the depth at that area, especially with any veterans, you know. So after Marty, it's going to be freshman. But at the same time, you know, I like being home. I like the fact that we've got some days to prepare these last couple weeks, and we'll have, you know, a couple days to prepare here. So big game. They're all going to be big games now, but nothing like a rivalry game.
The Breslin will be bumping with a lot of alumni players in the stands as well. Come tip off at 2:30. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, the Spartan Hoop Talk does not stop with the men. Susie Merchant and the MSU women's basketball team are also in the midst of a winning streak of their own. She sits down with us when the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show returns.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
It's been quite an eventful holiday break for the MSU women's basketball team. The Spartans have been able to string together 4 straight wins, with their biggest one coming at home against Indiana. MSU pulled off the upset, handing the Hoosiers their first loss of the year. So naturally, it's the first thing Susie Merchant and I had to touch upon. Happy New Year, Susie, first and foremost. You guys had quite the eventful holiday break when it comes to Michigan State standpoint, because the students aren't here. It's a break for you guys, but starting with the upset win over Indiana. What was it like for you guys to just kind of knock off the undefeated Hoosiers?
Well, obviously it was great, right? Our fans were a really big part of that. I thought there was tremendous energy. It was a great crowd. They were really loud. When we needed them to be, I thought they made it difficult for Indiana. We felt like, you know, losing that overtime game at home in early December was a disappointment to our team, and we knew we had to find a way to steal one back, right? And that would have been a good one to get. I thought our kids really executed well, executed the game plan, played together, played smart, played tough.
How did you see the energy, or was there something different leading up to that game in terms of, you mentioned you wanted to bounce back from the overtime loss, but could you see a lift in energy before heading into that game?
Yeah, I think, well, just even before the break, I thought, I mean, I thought Dee Dee was starting to kind of get back. She was in a little bit of a funk, I would say, you know, just, we need her to be a leader. She needs to be her effervescent self, and she was kind of like a little bit different than she normally was. And I think that affects everyone. You know, you're the face of the team. You have to be the face your team needs you to be on every day, whether you like it or not. And I really have loved how she's played the last few weeks. I think she was huge in the Indiana game. I think it's the best game the kids played in a Spartan uniform against a really good team when it mattered.
You mentioned too that you want your team to be able to play at a high level. It doesn't matter who the opponent is, you know, whether it's a ranked team, an undefeated team versus somebody who's maybe won 2 or 3 games. And so for you to be able to carry that momentum then into Northwestern, what did you think about the resolve maybe that you guys were able to not let that be a lag game per se?
I think if you're going to be a good team or a great team, whatever verb you want to use to describe your team, you have to be consistent. I mean, that's the key to life and anything. Are you the same person every day? You know, how you do one thing's how you do everything. And I think for us, you know, if we're going to have a letdown, then we deserve that, because that's controllable.
Tyre Parks too, second 2 straight games, double digits for her, kind of being that dominant presence that you're looking for in the paint. So what has she worked on the most the last couple of weeks to lead to those performances?
I think Ty's really done a good job of doing her work early. You know, I think she's playing harder, number one. I think it always starts there. I mean, sometimes Ty can kind of, you know, slow down a little bit and just kind of watch what's going on. And I don't think she's been doing that. I think she's been doing a good job of being in the moment. She played a great post player, Mackenzie Holmes, and I think in the past sometimes she gets a little intimidated by that. And this was like one of the first games I saw her really elevate her game versus like be nervous.
Now you have to go to Maryland. Maryland's always a tough team in the Big Ten. What do you want to see come Saturday?
I think they're gritty. I think they're tough. They've got great scoring skills. I mean, 1 through 5, kids can really score the ball. I don't think we were very good defensively against Northwestern. They got to the paint way too much. We weren't able to guard them and keep people in front of us. You got to start leveling up a little bit. I mean, they're where they're at for a reason. Those transfers have given them a shot of energy. And they have Diamond Miller, who's an All-American and a first-round draft pick for sure.
Do you have a New Year's resolution per se for your team?
I don't really.
Do you talk about that?
I don't apply it to the team, no. I mean, I think if I do a resolution, it's for myself. I want to drink more water and read more. Those are my two. But for the most part, I think we should be the same from September to March. You know, get better every day, certainly. I mean, if you ask me, it'd be to get better every day. If I had, you know, a wish, it would be for us to definitely get better defensively in the quarter court and defensive rebounding. Those are the 2 areas that I think. And then obviously the third in line would be that free throw line.
Right, getting better at the line, for sure.
Yeah,
it never hurts to be 100% from the line.
Yeah, well, they're called free throws for a reason. They're free. Let's take advantage, you know.
The new year always brings new hope, and now that the second half of the hoop season is upon us, this is when the real fun begins. As always, we thank you for being with us for this week's episode of the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show. And not only do we wish you a happy and healthy weekend, but a happy and healthy 2023. We'll see you next week.